Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video and then I'll hit rewind and go talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on, and then I'll talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
I am Kentucky State Police Captain Paul Blanton, Public Affairs Commander. Today, Kentucky State Police is releasing a video statement along with body cam footage from Louisville Metro Police Department's officer-involved shooting that occurred on October 26, 2021. Our agency is committed to responsible transparency to ensure every investigation is conducted with honesty, integrity, and strong moral and ethical principles. We encourage everyone to remember this video is only one piece of evidence, and the totality of every piece of evidence should be considered without exception during all investigations. On Tuesday, October 26, 2021, at approximately 12:35 a.m., officers from Louisville Metro Police Department's 5th Division responded to a domestic violence complaint on the 2500 block of Riverbend Drive, where a firearm was reported to be inside of a residence. While investigating the complaint, officers spoke to Ivan Foster, who was being asked to leave the residence by the homeowner. Officers followed him into a bedroom to gather his personal items, at which time Mr. Foster became increasingly agitated. Officers began giving repeated verbal commands to Mr. Foster to stop reaching into a stack of clothes and to sit on the bed. Based on the body cam footage captured by Officer Timothy Lanham, Mr. Foster proceeded to retrieve a firearm that had been concealed in a pile of clothes on top of a dresser and fired a weapon, striking Officer Tom Seabolt's police radio, which was located on his hip. Officer Seabolt immediately attempted to gain control of the firearm from Mr. Foster, at which time Mr. Foster began making verbal threats that he was going to kill Officer Seabolt. Officer Lanham fired several rounds from his firearm and fatally struck the subject. A second body cam video obtained from LMPD of Officer Seabolt shows Officer Seabolt attempting to gain control of the firearm, ending up on his back in the bed. EMS responded to the residence and pronounced Mr. Foster deceased at the scene. An autopsy was performed at the State Medical Examiner's office and results are pending. The investigation into this incident remains ongoing and is being handled by KSP's Critical Incident Response Team. In accordance with the standard operating procedure, KSP will not be releasing any further details while the investigation remains open. Timelines to complete investigations vary based on the complexity of the case. Please be advised that what you are about to view contains graphic material and may not be suitable for some people.
Oh, you're good, bro. I just want to make sure you ain't got no weapons. Then we're out here, brother. You're good. Just grab your shoes.
I'm sure. If I got to go out, this all I have.
Well, grab
I don't
it.
have nothing.
Grab it.
It's probably there's a gun in here somewhere.
In here?
Yeah, in the dresser.
There's nothing in here.
Don't reach for nothing. Don't reach for nothing.
There's nothing in here, sir.
Sit on the bed, please.
There's nothing in here.
Well, that's not what we're hearing. When we hear there's a gun involved, we take it a little extra seriously.
Y'all trying to kill me because she know I'm showing you.
Just sit down for me.
Have a seat on the bed.
Sir, just sit on the bed.
Have a seat on the bed, please.
I have no gun. Look, I do not have no gun. Can I take my shirt off so you don't see? I
No,
don't
you're
have
good.
a gun.
You're good. You're good.
Asking that you have a seat.
Do you have your ID,
I don't have
bro?
a gun. Come on, man.
Where's your
I don't
ID
have
at?
a gun on me, man. It's my ID right here, man.
Here you
Look,
go.
Nothing up here, man. Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Gun! Gun!
Stop.
Stop. Shoot him again. Shoot him again.
He's down. He's down.
Yeah.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
I'm empty. I'm jammed.
I got the gun. I got the gun.
I have no gun. Look, I do not have no gun. Can I take my shirt off so you don't see? I don't have a gun.
You're good. I'm just asking that you have a seat.
Do you have your
I
ID,
don't
bro?
have a gun. Man. I
Where's your
don't
ID?
have a gun on me, man. My ID right here. Nothing up here, man. Nothing.
Stop reaching.
reaching.
Give me a
Nothing.
favor. Stop reaching.
Gun! I'll kill him! Get, what is that? Stop!
Shoot him again. He's down. He's down.
Yeah.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
I'm empty. I'm jammed.
All right, let's get into it.
Oh, you're good, bro. I just want to make sure you ain't got no weapons. Then we're out here, brother.
So they are here for a domestic call. They mentioned that the person who owns the home, if this is a home, this could be an apartment, the person who is financially responsible for this dwelling wants this person gone. So it sounds like boyfriend, girlfriend kind of thing. Domestic dispute calls can be one of the most dangerous things that law enforcement can respond to. Historically, domestic dispute calls are where a lot of officers get injured and or killed. When you think about a domestic dispute, you have to think about the emotions and the feelings that some of these people are experiencing, and they are extremely high. And those extremely high feelings and emotions that they're going through rob their mind of any reasonable thinking. And it causes these people to do things that they ordinarily would not do. I don't know the exact circumstances of this domestic case. It doesn't appear as though this guy hit the woman. If he did, I think that he would most likely be in cuffs at this point and not allowed to go into the room and try and pick his stuff and then have the conversation with him about he just having to go find somewhere else to stay tonight. But that doesn't mean that things couldn't turn violent, which they end up obviously turning violent in this. But there's been cases where law enforcement go to a call where the man's beat the woman up, just beat the woman to an inch of her death, and police go to arrest the man, and then the woman goes berserk crazy on the police for arresting the love of her life. There are times when police go to these calls, it's obvious that the man has just beat the crap out of the woman. The woman is a victim, she's being abused, and then he gets arrested, and she takes information on protective orders and all that, and then once this guy gets out of jail, within a week they're back together. And it's a complicated kind of thing, and it can be pretty frustrating when obviously the other party, they are a victim, but they keep going back to that person. When you think about spousal or significant other injuries and or deaths, there are a lot of spouses and significant others that kill each other. in this country, in this world too. You can have people who've been married for several years, and then the husband kills the wife, or vice versa. So domestics can be extremely dangerous for law enforcement. That's why law enforcement always respond with more than one person. And that's why the tactics are to separate the two people, get them out of eyesight of each other, because things can turn hairy pretty quick. Now, in this particular case, could they have done anything different? Possibly. They could have kept him out of the house, which I don't know, where exactly he was at when they first got there. He could have been in his bedroom and they came over there to talk to him, or he could have been down in the living room. I don't know. We don't get to see any of the footage before this, so it's kind of hard to say exactly where he was at. And with that being said, it's kind of hard to say, what if this, what if that, if you don't know a whole lot of the details. But, given the circumstances, if they were able to just get him to go outside to talk to them, I think that probably would have been a bit of a better option. Get him out of the interior of the house and just break it down to him there that he's not allowed to go back inside the house. They'll go in, they'll retrieve his stuff. And that could have prevented him from finding this gun. And then, of course, if the police went up there and grabbed this stuff, they could have found the gun. When he starts to get a little squirrely in there, and they're telling him to have a seat on the bed, and he refuses to, and they tell him to stop reaching for stuff, and he refuses to, could they have done something different there? Potentially, but then you start looking into, violating people's constitutional rights and whatnot. So obviously, it does not appear as though he has done anything yet to this point to justify arresting him. Like I said earlier, if he had caused any visible injuries on the other person, or even no visible injuries on the other person, and assaulted them, the police could have gone ahead and arrested him. It didn't appear as though they had any intentions of arresting him for domestic assault. So what can they detain him for? What reasonable suspicion do they have for a crime for him to commit? So then that creates a kind of a legal issue where they don't have the exact right to go ahead and detain him. But with this information that's coming in that there's a gun involved, this also can change things. So if he is a convicted felon, obviously he's not supposed to be in possession of a gun, which I don't know what his criminal background is. But if that was the case, then obviously, they can go ahead and detain him while they investigate that kind of thing. But if they don't know of him being a felon or anything like that, who cares? Legally, if he has a gun there or not, it's the United States. We have the Second Amendment. As long as he is not a convicted felon or he has any domestic abuse convictions, he can possess a firearm and own a firearm. So just the mere mentioning of a gun doesn't really mean, we'll go ahead and arrest this guy and get him in cuffs. There has to be some type of suspected crime that they can reasonably believe that is being committed. And having that carnal knowledge of him being a convicted felon, that could have then said, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and put this guy in cuffs while we investigate this. But again, like I said, I have no idea what his criminal background is. I would imagine that he probably has some kind of criminal background, but to the extent of him having a felony, I don't know. I have no idea. If they had gone hands-on with this guy and tried to put him in cuffs to get better control over him, it would have, in my opinion, probably led to a fight. I don't think he was going to willingly go into a pair of handcuffs. And at that point, other types of force would have been used against this guy. He probably would have been shot with taser, I just feel that if they decided to try and put cuffs on him, they were going to have to fight him into a pair of handcuffs, just based off everything that we see in this video. So aside from that, one of the things that sticks out to me is the way this guy's acting. And back it up to here and hit play.
I'm trying. If I gotta go out, this all I have.
Well, grab
I don't
it.
have nothing.
Grab it.
Hopefully there's a gun in here somewhere.
In here?
Yeah, in the dresser.
So as soon as he mentions the gun, you can see the oh shit look in this guy's face, and he immediately puts his eyes over here. He knows where this gun's at, generally where it's at. He may have, because he rummages around in there, he may have forgotten exactly where he put it at, but he knows it's in the stack of clothes over here somewhere.
There's nothing in here.
Don't reach for nothing. Don't reach for nothing.
There's nothing in here, sir.
Sit on the bed, please.
There's nothing in here.
And that's not what we're hearing. When we hear there's a gun involved, we take it a little extra seriously.
Y'all trying to kill me because she know I'm showing you.
Just sit down for
Do me a
me.
favor, have a seat on the bed.
Sir, just sit on the
Do me a
bed.
favor, have a seat on the bed, please.
He's standing there, refusing to follow any of their instructions, and I can just only imagine what's going through his head. He's trying to think of his options. Why is it that he is doing this? It's possible that he is a convicted felon, and he's obviously not supposed to be in possession of a firearm. It could be that the firearm is stolen. It could also be that he's just kind of dumb, and he thinks that, like he could be a little bit dumb, and he could, have bought the gun from someone, private sale, and he doesn't know the laws here in Kentucky, and he might be thinking that he was supposed to have the gun registered or something like that. And he may be thinking he could get in trouble for that. And he decided to act that way. I don't know. We obviously can't, figure that out because he's dead. But I would say the two likely scenarios, in just, my opinion, the two likely scenarios is one, he's a convicted felon. He's not supposed to have a gun. And then the second scenario is the gun's probably stolen. The third possibility, the third scenario is he, because of this domestic dispute, he has intentions of harming the other person, and this is the moment where he's going to lose, in his mind, he's going to lose that opportunity to be able to do so. And he tries to get the gun out and then maybe try and go get her, but he's going to have to deal with these officers here first. Again, no way of knowing. There's no way of asking him because he ended up expiring after this.
I have no gun. Look, I do not have no gun. Can I take my shirt off so you don't see? I
No,
don't
you're
have
good.
a gun.
You're good. You're good.
Ask him if you have a seat.
Do you have your ID,
I don't have
bro?
a gun.
Where's your
I don't
ID
have a
at?
gun on me.
So he goes through this little charade of trying to overtly prove that there's not a gun there. He goes through this whole process of taking his shirt off and then pulling his pants down far enough to expose some of his penis. And when it comes to people acting like that, that, from my experience, when people go through this overt gestures to try and lower your guard, make you think, oh yeah, there's really nothing going on. When they act like that, that means there's something going on. They are being deceptive. They are trying to make you think something else. Normal people do not go through the extremes of taking their shirt completely off and then pulling their pants down and exposing some of their penis. That's a little out there. That's a little weird. And so just that action itself kind of makes me believe that this guy was acting in such a way that he was trying to deceive these officers and make them think that he did not have a gun or was not in possession of one, or there was just not one in the room whatsoever.
It's my ID right here, man.
Here you go.
This whole time, he is keeping his eyes focused over here. I think that what he's got going on in his head right now is he is adamant about finding that gun. He's putting on this distraction, trying to buy time to be able to get his hands on that gun.
Nothing up here, man. Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Good.
It happens super, super fast.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Good.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Good. Done. Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Good.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
The bullet that he fires, it ends up hitting this officer's radio that's on his belt. He only gets one round off. He doesn't fire anymore. And once he fires that one round and they're struggling over this gun, the dude makes the comments, put it down, I'm going to kill him. Why is that? I'm not 100% sure. All we have is this video, and we don't get to see a whole lot from this video. It's a low light room. They're having to use flashlights to see things, so that kind of causes some image issues with the camera because there's just not enough light getting into the shutter to show clearly what's going on. We have this officer who's kind of blocking the view a little bit, and then when we get to this officer's camera, there's just not enough light coming into the camera itself to really show a clear image of what's going on. And there's no supporting documentation, reports or anything like that that's been released to give us a better idea. And that's one of the problems with cameras. They may show a whole lot, but even as they're showing a whole lot, they don't show a whole lot, if that makes any sense. So he gets one round
Stop
off.
reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
And he doesn't get any more rounds off. The possibilities of why that happened. One, he fired one round and his gun had a malfunction of some sort. Other possibility is he gets one round fired and the officer grabs the gun and the gun goes out of battery. And he's unable to fire any more rounds because that slide has been dislodged and is out of battery, preventing it from firing. There's a possibility that during the struggle, the magazine came out of the gun and he only gets one round fired off, and then the magazine's not in there to be able to load more into the chamber. Those are some possibilities that I think that occurred, and I think that if that's the case, then that would explain why he went into this whole charade of saying, drop it, I'll kill him. The other possibility is he didn't intend to fire that round. His intention was to take one hostage without any shots being fired, but because he broke the cardinal rule of keeping your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, he was handling the gun and had his booger hook on the bang switch, and he negligently discharged a round when he had no intentions of doing so. That's a possibility. I don't think it's a very high possibility, but it's still a possibility that could have been his mindset, and it's just that he inadvertently fired a round off. The radio that this officer has is right here. So we see his taser, the big yellow thing right there, and to the front of it is his radio. And you can see the leather case that it's in. You can see the lapel mic where it clips into the body of the radio. I'll back this up some. You can see some more. Yeah. So there's that little attachment that I'm talking about. You see the cord going up.
Stop reaching.
No.
The cord goes up, and the lapel mic is clipped somewhere on his shirt to the front there.
Stop reaching.
Good. Good. I'll kill him. Put it down. Good. Good. I'll kill him. Put it down.
Now, what we see from this officer right here is he's immediately struggling to get control of the gun, or at least it appears to be.
No.
Stop reaching.
No.
Stop reaching.
Good. Good. I'll kill him.
He does manage to draw his gun.
No.
Stop reaching.
Good. Good. I'll kill him. I'll kill him.
Reaching.
Good. Good.
So he does manage to draw his gun. What his other hand is doing, we cannot clearly see, but I have a feeling that he has a hand on the gun or a hand on his hand that's holding the gun, and he's trying to keep it away from his body, and he is starting the draw process. Now from here, and it may take me a couple times to get it to pause just right, but from here he does his draw, but he doesn't go into the classic retention position. He does somewhat fall on the bed, and he kind of more or less has his firearm or forearm rather across his abdomen area versus a more high and tight with the elbow going upwards and having the gun hand and gun in the pectoral area of his body with the classic retention stance or pose, I guess you could say.
Good. Good. I'll kill him. No.
Stop reaching.
Good. Good. I'll kill him. No.
Stop reaching.
Good. Good.
So he starts the draw process pretty good, and once this hand gets up to about right here, that's probably about the maximum extension or exertion that you're going to be able to exert on this arm and have this hand go up that far with the gun in it. And once you get to that point right there, this part of the hand would kind of cant upwards, so to speak, to be able to have the muzzle of the gun pointed more at the target versus pointing at the ground. And that would be your firing from retention position. Without throwing in, some type of visual example of it in this video, splicing that in, it is somewhat, I guess, challenging to describe it verbally. But a good retention stance in this kind of scenario is something that, one, you should learn in training, and then once you've learned that in training under the watchful eye of a competent instructor, it's something that you should go practice to keep your skills somewhat fresh, just like you should with any other firearm skill, because these skills are perishable. The firing from retention, there are some schools of thought and instruction where once you bring that gun up into that retention position, there is some teachings where they tell you that you can cause your upper body to move above the hips, so you could, for example, lean backwards some, and by holding that gun in that same position, you don't move the gun up or down. You just have it locked in to your side and pulled up tight, and it's pointed at the target. But they tell you that you can lean backwards some, and that will cause the muzzle to elevate, and you can fire higher into the target, or you can lean forward some, and that can fire lower into the target. I'm not the biggest fan of that type of instruction. The firing from retention, the gun should be high and tight, so to speak, into your pectoral region. But I don't believe in this concept or teaching of rotating, or not rotating, but leaning back and leaning forward to adjust the elevation of the rounds hitting. At this distance, this bad breath distance, if you do a good draw, a good retention draw, where you got that gun high and tight into the pectoral, and you've got it at a downward angle, you fire enough rounds, you should put enough rounds into the abdomen and pelvic area where this gun would be kind of generally pointed at, that you should have some desired effect. You should be able to shoot that person off of you and cause either physical incapacitation, or at least, for sure cause some mental incapacitation. More than likely, you're going to be causing some physical incapacitation shooting at such a close range and pumping multiple rounds into them in such a fashion. The firing from retention, that's done because physically you cannot exert your arms outwards in a classic Weaver or isosceles stance. The target's right in front of you. They physically prevent you from extending your arms out into a classic shooting stance. And even if you could get some extension on your arms, you don't want to, because then that person can gain control over your arms, your limbs, and be able to use leverage to gain control over you and kind of guide you where they want you to go, where they want to guide you to, and or more easily perform a gun disarm and get that gun out of your hand. It's a whole lot harder when you've got that gun tucked up high and tight into your pectoral area, and its center of gravity, so to speak, is in towards your core. When you think about having to wrestle a person into a pair of handcuffs, once they pull those arms closer to their torso and they pull their arms under their body, it's hell getting those arms out and pulling them out and putting them behind their back. It is a chore to do that. I don't give a shit how strong you are. It's difficult, even with multiple people. When someone puts their arms close to their core like that and then tuck them in, you have hell gaining control over that. And so it's kind of the same concept applies when you do a proper retention draw on your gun. You've got it so closer to your body that it makes it more difficult for them to try to get a hold of it and be able to gain leverage and control you that way. And even if they do manage to get their hand on your forearm or your hand or the gun itself, it's going to be that much more difficult for them to pull your arm straight out and then try to gain leverage that way. But anyway, he goes into the draw and he doesn't get what I would call the classic retention position. He just kind of has his gun right there out in front of him. Now, I'd imagine that once that happens, I think that this guy starts struggling over his gun the moment he gets it out, because we do see, as this officer, after he fires his first initial rounds, he comes around and you see that they're struggling for the gun, and I'll show that now.
I'll kill him. I'll kill him. Bitch, what is that? Stop. Stop.
Stop.
You can see that they're kind of fighting over this officer's gun.
I'll kill him. Bitch, what is that? Stop. Stop.
Stop.
So I think that once he got his gun out and he had it come to the front of his body, this guy was then fighting over his gun. Is it possible that this officer tried to fire his gun into this guy and it didn't work? Yeah, that's possible. We just don't know because there's no reports or anything with this. It could have been that he got his gun out, pointed at the guy, intended to fire, but this guy grabbed his gun and caused the slide to go out of battery, and he was unable to fire any rounds.
Ah, chill him, bitch. What is that? Stop.
Stop.
Wait, shoot him again. Shoot him again.
Once he clears his arm, he uses his elbow to press into this guy's head and neck area.
He's down.
He does that to gain better control over his upper body, pin him down to the bed, make it harder for him to fight. It's an effective technique. I like putting the forearm and into a person's neck and face area and keep their body pinned down where they can't get any leverage, so to speak, in getting up and having a better advantage. It's really effective. But he gains control over him by doing that.
He's down.
Yeah.
And of course, he's still got his gun in his hand, but he's unable to do anything with it because he's using his elbow and forearm area to pin this guy's head down.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
He recognizes that the gun is still in the bed and it's within this guy's reach, and he wants it moved. We'll talk about this later, though. It being moved.
I'm jammed.
And that's pretty much all we get to see from on this officer. When it comes to his body camera footage, we don't get to see a whole lot because it's just too dark and blurry. And once the fight happens and they're all close to each other, you really can't see anything.
No, stop reaching.
Gun.
No, stop reaching.
Gun.
I'll kill him. What is that?
Now, what I talked about way earlier about the suspect, with him firing one round and then not firing any other rounds, I said that there's a possibility that he could have had a malfunction. Now, from this camera view,
No, stop.
you'll have to play it multiple times to get a good view on it. I probably won't be able to pause it right in time to show the exact parts. But when you see after he fires, you can see the silhouette of the gun, and it almost looks like the slide is out of battery some.
Gun.
I'll kill him. What?
So right there, it looks like there's a bit of a gap to kind of seem like the slide's a little backwards. I'll hit replay.
Gun.
I'll kill him.
Again, that's a little bit better of a freeze frame. That looks like the frame of the gun, and this looks like the barrel, and this looks like the space that you would see when the slide is locked back or is partially back. The part where, and you'll see it within this side of the screen after I hit play, but if you look for the silhouette of the gun, it looks like the slide is to the rear.
Reaching.
Gun.
I'll kill him. What?
It's so hard to get it right on time.
Gun.
I'll kill him.
Reaching.
Gun.
I'll kill him.
Nope, almost at it.
Stop reaching.
Gun.
I'll kill him.
Stop reaching.
Yeah, I might not be able to freeze it on time.
Gun.
I'll kill him.
Okay, right there. Okay, so that looks like to me the slide is to the rear. So it's possible that after he fired that one round, some type of malfunction occurred, whether he had a stovepipe or a double feed, I don't know. But it looks like, based off the silhouette of this guy's gun, there was a malfunction of some sort. But we just cannot see with any clarity because there's just not enough light coming into the camera lens here to be able to see very clearly. But this right here looks like his slide is backwards some. And then when you, well, I'm not going to go through it because you saw it earlier and I pointed it out, but when you see the gun silhouette right here, you see that light, that space going in between there, and that makes me think that the slide is out.
Stop!
When that happened, it's possible that this guy tried to fire more rounds after that, and it just wasn't working. And then he tried to put on the show that he was still capable of shooting, when in fact he wasn't. But he was trying to put on the show that he was, and was saying, "Hey, drop it! I'll kill him," trying to make them think that he was still capable of fighting with a gun, when in reality he wasn't.
Stop! Shoot him again! Shoot him again! Shoot him again! He's down. He's down. Yeah.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
Now, when he gets up, we see his lapel mic laid across his chest right here. I would imagine that when the suspect fired his round and it hit the officer's radio, I would say that the round went through the radio and probably broke off this attachment piece right here, because typically this part of the lapel mic doesn't come off the radio very easily. It's usually the microphone part that's just clipped to the shirt that comes off easily during a fight, which is why the company Microloop has their product to remedy those kind of issues. But typically this side of the radio or the microphone that clips into the radio or even screws in the radio just doesn't come loose. And so I think the bullet destroyed the radio enough to where this just came off. And that's it we see with the first officer. So now let's go review from the officers from his camera view right here, the one that we see the most footage out of.
Don't reach for nothing. Don't reach for nothing.
There's nothing in here, sir.
Sit on the bed, please.
There's nothing in here. Kill me, because she my shirt off, so you don't have a gun.
Here you go.
Nothing up here.
So he takes his ID once he hands it out.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
And then he throws something onto the dresser right here. And I'll play it again.
Stop reaching.
Nothing.
Stop reaching.
I don't think that it was his ID. I think it was his flashlight. Because when I play the video multiple times, you can see this officer, his light comes flying out this direction. And this is the light we see on the ground. It comes from this guy right here. This officer, what I think he threw on the drawer right here is his flashlight. I don't think that throwing the ID on there would have caused that big clunking noise. So he threw his flashlight up there and he got it out of his hands. I like that he wanted to clear his hands to get a better two-handed grip. I've seen multiple videos before where someone will have an object in their hand and they will completely forget to jettison it. I've seen people with flashlights in their hand and they try to get a two-handed grip. I've seen people with portable radios in their hand and they try to get a two-handed grip. I want to say I've seen a video where a person has a taser in their hand and then they try to put their hands together holding the taser and the gun to get a two-handed grip, and it obviously doesn't work, right? And in those instances where a person has something in their support hand and they don't get rid of it and they try to marry their hand together with the gun hand to get a two-handed grip, you don't get a good two-handed grip. And that, I think, leads to some accuracy issues. I think that can cause some people to miss some rounds because you're just not getting your good classic two-handed grip. And when you fire multiple rounds in succession, that can cause rounds to go wide. You can miss without a good grip. So I like how he cleared his hands, got crap out of his hands he did not need for a gunfight, and then got a good two-handed grip. And like I said, when you see videos of people doing this, I think that there's a higher chance of missing. And if he did not rid his hands of this unnecessary stuff and tried to shoot with one hand having an object in it and trying to get two-handed grip and just screwing it all up, I think that would have increased the chances of him missing and possibly hitting this officer. This officer and the bad guy, they're pancaked. I mean, they're right on top of each other. True bad breath distance between each other. And this officer fires from where he's at and doesn't hit the other officer. That's either, there's two things with that. That's either A, he's really lucky that he didn't miss, or B, he practices on his own and retains his skill level with marksmanship. And this isn't a knock on the police or anything, but there's a lot of police and police shootings who miss rounds. I don't know any statistical information, percentages wise, like how many times police miss during a gunfight. But if you watch enough of these videos, you're going to see that the police do not hit their target with every single round. There are some misses, and there's been times where scenarios like this, where the bad guy's right on top of the good guy, they're very close proximity, the police fire, and they accidentally hit the good guys. That happens more than what you think. So he gets a good two-handed grip on this gun. He fires 2 rounds really quick. He appears to hit the target. Now, he could have missed and hit the wall for all I know. We don't get to see that. There's no, autopsy report indicating how many rounds is in this guy, or ballistic reports, We just have to assume that his rounds hit him. We know that his rounds didn't hit the other officer, or else that would be in the news that this officer was shot. But he gets a good two-handed grip on that gun, fires 2 rounds pretty quick, and appears to put it into the bad guy.
I'll kill him, bitch. Put it down. Good. I'll kill him, bitch. Put it down. Stop.
He comes up, reacquires target.
Stop. Shoot him again.
He fires about 5 rounds.
Shoot him again. He's down. He's down. Shoot him again.
And then he incurs some type of malfunction.
He's down. He's down.
Now, what kind of malfunction does he have? He either has a type of a stovepipe type of malfunction, or he has a double feed. When I first saw this, I initially thought a stovepipe style of malfunction, but we don't see the classic profile of the brass sticking up vertically from the ejection port area. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't have that same kind of malfunction. I have before in the past had brass kind of sit inside the ejection port in the same profile that it would be as the slide comes back and the round comes up upwards from the magazine and then gets stripped out of the mag. That same positioning just caught in between the slide and the breech, just kind of gets caught inside that ejection port area and doesn't fully come all the way out. I have had that happen before, so it could have been that. I'm not leaning very strongly towards that. I'm leaning a little bit more strongly towards he had a double feed.
Shoot him again.
After he fires and he starts to clear it, if you watch, it looks like a round comes out of the gun as he's stripping the magazine out. And that's happened to me before when I've had double feeds. You go to extract that magazine, and one of those rounds comes out. Kind of see the glint of the round as it comes out. And then we see the slide does look a little bit fully back.
He's down. He's down.
Yeah.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
And then we can see right in here, it looks like brass. Or nickel, rather. Brass is just kind of a, generic term for casings or whatever. Obviously, they don't have the brass-colored casings. They got the nickel stuff. They got the duty-grade ammo. So casing is the word I should use. You can see what appears to be a casing right there. And so that's what makes me think that this guy had a double feed.
I'm empty. I'm jammed.
We also see that his hand is holding the suspect's hand down, and his gun is still out of commission. It's out of the fight. When I first saw this video, and this general time frame of it, when I first watched it, I remember saying to myself, "Get that gun back in the fight." And I still say that in my head whenever I see a gun out of the fight. Get your gun back in the fight. And that's one of the only real big negative things I have to say about this, is he did not get his gun back in the fight. So if he was using one hand to control this limb, he could have very easily taken his knee and shin and placed it on top of this guy's arm, and then used both hands to go ahead and clear the malfunction in the gun, and then get it dangered back up. He also could have done a one-handed reload. While maintaining his non-dominant hand on this guy's arm, he could have gone through the process to clear this weapon and reload it using just his dominant hand. And if you have not done that before, it's something that you should learn to do and then practice. Because who's to say that you won't be able to have both hands available in a fight? Clearing a double feed one-handed, it's kind of a bitch, not going to lie, but it can be done. You can even do it non-dominant hand, one-handed. So there's really no excuse for this guy not to get his gun back in the fight. And like I said, that's the only real big negative thing I have to say. It's just him not getting that gun back in the fight. But other than that, hell yeah, marksmanship. That's a tough shot. That really is. That is a hell of a tough shot.
No.
Stop reaching.
Gun! I'll kill him. Put it down.
He's not exactly on top of him.
Gun! I'll kill him. Put it
There's some distance involved here.
down.
And he fires quick, and they're both moving around. And you can see this officer's head right here. So he's moving upwards and he's shooting. The possibility of something going wrong was pretty high. And it didn't. Nothing went wrong. The officer down there didn't get hurt. And, this is this is some hell yeah marksmanship right here. He straight up just, he did work. I don't think there's much else we can say. He fired true on this one. So close. If you've ever done competition shooting and people have put the no shoot targets in front of the shoot targets, it's even in a non-life threatening scenario, there are still people who hit the no shoot target just under stress, trying to get through the drill as quick as possible, Even if they're not trying to get through the drill quick as possible, it's just all the adrenaline and everything's pumping. And sometimes people accidentally hit the no-shoot target in a competition. And we all know going into these shooting competitions, it's not life or death. And it still happens. And then in this kind of scenario, it is life or death. And he gets his hits on target. And the no-shoot target, so to speak, has no holes in it, thankfully. So, hell yeah, marksmanship for this guy. The only negative thing I got to say is he just didn't get his gun back in the fight when he should have, in my opinion.
Stop. Stop. Shoot him again. Shoot him again. He's down. He's down.
No, we don't see much out of him. Now, this third officer right here, let me back it up just a little bit. So when this officer right here is starting to mess with his gun, you hear what sounds like a slide racking. We know it's not him, and we know it's not him. It has to be her. So listen.
Yeah. He's down.
So you hear what sounds like a slide being manipulated, and then you see her tapping the gun. Let's do that again.
He's down.
So, did she fire? I have no idea. They don't provide any body camera footage from her. She does have a body camera. We can see the blinking light on her side right here.
Get the gun off the bed.
He's down. Again. He's down.
So I don't know. I don't know if she fired or not, or if she tried to fire and nothing happened. So if that's the case, then I mean, there's a lot of guns that malfunctioned in this video. We see the suspect's gun in the silhouette. I mean, it looks like the gun is out of battery. He gets one round off, isn't able to get any more off. This officer here doesn't get any rounds off. Don't know why. It's a possibility that this suspect had his hand on the gun and was pushing the slide out of battery, or he just didn't feel safe enough to fire because he knew he didn't have the muzzle on the guy. So not 100% sure about him. This guy, he has a malfunction. We see that very clearly. And then her, I mean, I don't know what the explanation behind what I think is her racking the slide and doing a tap.
He's down.
So, no clue on that. Again, no documentation. I wish there was. All we got is the video, and even though we can see a whole lot with the video, we also don't see a whole lot or understand a whole lot on what's going on.
He's down.
Now, this officer right here, he can see the suspect's vehicle at the corner of the bed, and he wants it moved.
Yeah.
He's down. Get the gun off the bed.
She grabs the gun off the corner of the bed over here and then sets it back on the bed. I don't know what she was thinking, but yeah, let's go ahead and move the gun off one side of the bed to take it out of his reach, and then let's put it arguably in a position that is probably closer to him, where he could more easily reach it. That's not the best place, in my opinion, to be putting the suspect's gun closer to them. I think that she could have put it on the ground, maybe kind of throw it to the corner over here, because you can see the corner of the wall. This appears to be a closet. She could have very easily, put it over there, put it on the nightstand, whatever this is right behind her. She could have turned and put it back there. Putting it on the bed within arm's reach of this guy would not be my first choice. She can even put it on the ground right beside the bed, just anywhere that's out of arm's reach of this guy.
I'm empty. I'm jammed. So,
Bed. Yeah.
He's down.
Get the gun off the bed.
Now, if you look over here, this is a doorway. It's dark. And then you see a flashlight turn on. Someone's coming. That's another officer.
I'm empty.
And then you see their flashlight coming in. Again, no idea if they had a body camera rolling to kind of show better angles, you know, the scene, the layout, or whatever. It's not included. So there's not much else to say about what we see in this video as far as movements and stuff like that. But I do want to talk about something. And let me go back to this point right here.
This officer. Yes, sir.
Just sit down. Reaching.
No.
Stop reaching.
Okay. So we know that that radio was right about in here. And the radio got hit. What if he didn't hit that radio? What if he shot into this officer? So this brings up the conversation about medical gear. If you are carrying a gun every day, whether you're paid to carry that gun as a police officer, security guard, or if you make the life choice to carry it as just a regular citizen wanting to be an armed citizen to protect yourself, if you carry a gun on a daily basis, then you recognize the fact that you could be involved in a gunfight. And gunfights are a two-way range. Bullets go both directions. With that being said, there's a possibility you could be shot. There's a possibility one of your teammates could be shot. There's a possibility that one of your loved ones could be shot. If you're going to carry the tools to induce trauma, you should also carry the tools to reduce trauma. Ambulance response times are counted in minutes, not seconds. That radio, where it was positioned, was right above his thigh, onto his thigh area. That round that this suspect fired could have very easily gone and hit his femoral artery. You can bleed to death within 90 seconds of a femoral artery hit. I don't know any damn ambulance that can respond to a scene and start providing pre-hospital care within 90 seconds. I mean, it's just, I don't want to say it's impossible, because you have like private events and stuff like that where an ambulance is staged there at the scene or whatever. They might be able to get to someone within a minute and start providing medical care. But in situations like this, no, that's not going to be the case at all. An ambulance is not going to respond to this apartment within 90 seconds and put a tourniquet on this officer and save his life. It's just not going to happen. And that is why you should carry medical gear on you. For the armed citizen people, you know, you carry a gun probably because your mindset is somewhere along the lines of, it takes too long for a cop to respond. I need my gun right now, not 5 minutes later. If that is some of the reasoning and why you carry a gun, then that mindset should also apply to your medical gear. If you recognize the fact that it takes too long for the police to respond, then you should also recognize the fact that it takes too long for the ambulance to respond. If you're a paid professional and you carry the gun for security work or law enforcement work, you should have the mindset that you cannot rely on an ambulance 100% of the time. You have to carry that medical gear on you. If you have that mindset that you're just going to call an ambulance, you're wrong. You're about as wrong as a football bat. There are multiple options for having medical gear. Something is just as basic as having a tourniquet is acceptable to me. As I mean, obviously a tourniquet cannot treat, a bunch of different things. It's, kind of limited to your limbs, and stopping, extreme hemorrhaging. But if that's all you carry on you, I would rather you do that than carry nothing at all. So at a very bare minimum, you can carry just a tourniquet on your duty belt, and it takes up hardly no space at all. If you have uniforms where you have cargo pants, you can put a tourniquet in there, no problem whatsoever. If you carry an ankle gun as a backup gun, well, then you can get an ankle medical holster to carry on the other ankle and be able to carry medical stuff with no problem. If your company or your agency has outer vests and you have pouches on that vest, more than just the magazines and stuff, you got the damn thing kitted out like you're going to invade Afghanistan or something, there's really no reason why you shouldn't have a pretty decently stocked IFAK on your vest. If you're going to have all these little pouches and stuff like that on your outer vest, you can sure as shit put an IFAK on there. I understand that, law enforcement doesn't pay the greatest. Security doesn't pay the greatest. But I would argue that you have probably bought some stuff for your job to make life easier for you at work. It could be that you got some Under Armour type of clothing for the winter time to make things a little bit nicer for you because your department didn't provide it to you. Better socks, with better cushion or arch support or something like that. Better footwear than what's provided to you. Hell, there's probably some of you out there who you had to buy all your stuff. You had to bring your own gun to work. You had to bring your own bulletproof vest to work. For those of you who've had to buy all that crap, you should already be used to it. And paying just a little bit extra to have a tourniquet or an IFAK, I mean, that shouldn't, break the bank for you. That shouldn't, dissuade you from doing it because you've already had to buy your own stuff anyway. For these agencies that has most stuff provided to them, again, like I said, I would argue that you've probably had to go out and buy something on your own dime to make your job just a little bit easier, make things suck a little bit less. And I would encourage you to buy your own medical gear if it has not been provided to you. As I've said, beating the dead horse, an ambulance will not get there in time. You have to be able to render aid to yourself or your buddies very quickly. If it means you having to bring some ham sandwiches to work for a couple weeks to save enough money to buy the necessary life-saving equipment, then by all means, enjoy those damn sandwiches for a week or two and get you some damn good gear to keep on you. What would you rather do? Suffer a couple weeks of not having, some decent food at work and be able to buy that medical equipment? Or would you rather bleed to death somewhere by yourself, waiting on backup to get to you, trying to figure out where you're at, and then you die? Like, which would you prefer? It's a no-brainer. Like, I would rather eat some shitty-ass bologna sandwiches for a couple weeks, save enough money, than to face the possibility of dying on the side of the road while people are trying to find me. Like, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Some of the stuff you don't have to go out and buy on your own. If you're, or at least for the police, if you work, you're beat, and, there's got to be some firefighters or paramedics that you've come across on a more frequent basis that you know by sight. You probably chit-chat and, trade jokes on the side of the road at an accident scene or at the scene where the overdose or whatever. There's firefighters or medics that you've had conversations with, and you're on maybe even on a first name basis. Talking to those guys or girls, you can get some stuff from them off the trucks. Of all the bean counters in the world, I don't think that when it comes to inventory purposes, anyone's counting every single gauze pad. I don't think there's someone counting every single roll of medical tape. There's some stuff that you can ask the firefighters or paramedics to give you off the truck to help build up your medical kit. And I would imagine that they would probably have no problem whatsoever giving you that stuff. Now, are they going to be able to give you a freaking AED? No. I mean, that's going to be noticed. But there's enough disposable items on a truck that they can give you, and when they get back to their ambulance station or the hospital, fire station, wherever they keep their restock stuff at, if they give you a handful of gauze pads, all they got to do is grab another handful from the restock area and throw it in the truck, and no one's going to notice. No one's going to care. So you can get some free stuff to build up part of your medical kit or to supplement some of your medical kit. There's really no good, valid excuse why you shouldn't have medical gear. There's just too much opportunity out there for you to get it. And I believe that is all I have to say. Yep, that's it. So if you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.